All right. Thank you, Music Posse, for getting us all jazzed up so that I, along with my guest today, can engage all of you social friends, neighbors, clients, and maybe some of you rando people that just happen to play hooky on a Tuesday and you're kind of like trolling social media, and lucky you. No, I'm just kidding. Lucky us. You come to find us today virtually. So for all of you here on a repeat basis, thank you for joining me and my guest in this episode of Solar Powered Living. If you are a first-time guest, a big, absolute, warm welcome to you. Thank you for being a part of our community and our tribe. My guest today is a connection, a local connection who I met several years ago. And if I might remember, I think I met him at a social event. It was raising some funds for a nonprofit, maybe like a dog rescue organization. And we had drinks, we shook hands, and as part of all of that, I vividly remember him, not just because of the business that he owns, operates, and runs, which complements my business, but I don't know, he was just an absolute interesting guy. So with that said, let me give him a nice warm round of applause and welcome. Let me get his fan base. All right, let's get his fan base to give him that nice warm welcome, because when we're doing this, sometimes we just need that. So here we go. Sean, your fan base is calling you. Here we go. Yeah, look at all these people. Sean, look at all these people that you've helped in their journey of selling, buying, owning real estate, right? So let's bring you into the conversation. Sean, what do you think about all those fans of yours?
Oh, hey, those were great fans, Bill. Thank you.
especially the young guy that was in that audience, and he was like, yeah.
That was one of a kind. I've never been introduced like that before. That I can say. The fans were amazing.
Well, all right. Well, hey, they are your fans that I just made sure they showed up for you as well today. So, Sean, thank you for showing up for me, for yourself, for both of our audiences, whether, it's social friends, clients, business partners. Thank you for sharing some of your time with us on guess what? A very hot, sunny Tuesday, right?
Well, yeah, it's very hot out there. Very hot.
By the way, I ordered this weather for the reason of today's episode, solar power living, right? We need that sun to generate that solar power.
Exactly.
So, Sean, let me now, for the benefit of our virtual audience, let me kind of remind you and whisper to them why Sean is my guest today. All right, social friends, this is why. It's because not too far back, somewhat recent, Sean, we're connected to each other, but Sean had shared something on social media, and as soon as I saw enough of it, clicking on this, that, or whatever, my guess, I immediately thought, I gotta pick up the phone, call you, Sean, and ask, maybe even beg you to be a guest in my upcoming episode. And so, social friends, what is it that Sean shared on social media not too far back? He shared something that is important, I think, that I'm passionate about, and a lot of my friends and clients are passionate about, and that is, what the heck should you know, should you do, and how do you plan for it? And that is, what if you're selling a home, buying a home? That's not unusual. But what if you're doing it where you've got this set of stuff called solar panels on the roof of the real estate property, right, Sean?
Absolutely. It definitely complicates things a little bit. That's for sure.
Now, before you answer that question, and before I give you the virtual mic so you can go into the weeds a little bit about this, can you share with the people who don't know you? That's not too many. That's not too many. I know a lot of people know you, but you never know. There's always that segment of people that are like, oh, I don't know Sean Robertson. So who are you? What is it that you do?
My name is Sean Robertson. We specialize in real estate and estate planning. We do a lot of real estate for sellers and buyers throughout the Chicagoland area. And it's kind of funny because we actually got a contract this week with solar panels. So it actually couldn't have happened at a better time.
Wow. Okay. So we manifest what we both want, right?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So not to name names, the contract that you received that sounds like you're working on, you're
Right.
representing, is it a seller of a property?
No, a buyer in this case.
Oh, okay. All right. So hang on to that thought. And again, we're not going to name names. We don't want to do that.
Right. I'm not going to give specifics.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
We don't want to give specifics. Okay. So we'll come back to what that means in a real life situation in just a little bit. So Sean,
okay,
let's lead off with you sharing with our virtual audience, when someone is selling or buying real estate property, that's pretty usual stuff. I know for you, you probably eat, sleep, and drink that kind of stuff. But right, when there are solar panels on the actual real estate structure, what makes it maybe a little bit more unique, a little bit more complicated, or a little bit more interesting?
So what makes it unique is every deal is completely different. So like most of the time, and now the 8.0 real estate contract that's new has done something that never was done before, which is it requires the seller within 3 business days after acceptance of the contract to provide the details to the buyer, which is important because typically in the past, what would occur is we get to around the closing date and we find out there's solar panels. So with solar panels, they don't always show up on what they call a title commitment, meaning they're not necessarily, they're more like UCC matters, which basically means it's more like personal. It's like a personal property lien.
Got it.
Versus a mortgage, which is against real estate. So what's important is, number one, to know the terms. Like you're going to need to know what is the contract, because whether you're a buyer, your buyer is going to want to know, is there 10 years left? What does the contract say?
Right.
Because if they're going to lease these solar panels, their lender needs to, as you know, Bill, the lender needs to make sure they qualify even for that with the debt income ratio.
Bingo. You're spot on. Thank you for that nice cue and segue. We'll come back to that in a second. You're right. You're spot on. Yes.
And number two, what makes it challenging too sometimes is like in my situation or another situation, sometimes the seller may give a credit to the buyer because maybe the buyer doesn't like all the terms of the solar panel. And so what makes it a challenge too is you need to make sure that that credit qualifies for lending purposes, because you just can't give $50,000 or $10,000 worth of credits.
That's right.
And expect a lender to lend to you. It just doesn't work that way. There's a maximum amount. And one thing that changes with the solar panel deal where you're going to buy something is the lender is very important, particularly if they know solar panels, because these are just different deals.
Yeah. Now, not to undermine my role in this live stream, does this get less complicated when there's no lender, when financing is the good old truckload of $1,000 bills?
Yeah. I mean, I would. Are you talking about a cash deal, or what are you talking about?
When I'm
Yeah.
talking.
So, I mean, a cash deal is easier because you can kind of do what you want. But when a lender is involved, you've got federal rules, you got regulations, you have a lot of rules. You
True.
can't just do anything you want to do. It's not the wild, wild west.
True,
so
true.
that's what makes solar panels a little bit more challenging, because and a lot of times the seller doesn't have the paperwork, which makes it even more complicated. I know that's been my story. I've had sellers in the past that we sold, and they didn't have the paperwork.
Uh-oh, hang on. Let me hear that again.
The sellers didn't have the paperwork.
The seller didn't have their paperwork. All right, let me put that into layman's terms, Sean. The seller probably shoved that paperwork in some kitchen drawer or threw it away.
Absolutely correct. And that makes it a challenge because,
Right.
you know, the buyer wants to know what they're going to assume.
Right.
And like one transaction, what made it even more challenging, and this is one of the challenging things sometimes with solar panels, is it's still kind of new and trendy.
True.
And one of our companies went bankrupt.
Yes.
And it was basically impossible to do a lease because the company was in bankruptcy court.
Yeah, I hear you. It is an ever-changing industry right now, partly because it's new. There are certainly some early adopters. The industry is expanding, and there's consolidation, merger, acquisition, consolidation, like any industry. So
absolutely.
So back to what you're saying. The seller doesn't have the paperwork. So this is a call to action for all of you selling real estate property. If you're not, and first, if you're not calling Sean Robertson, owner operator of Gateville Law Firm, to represent you legally, he just saved you a lot of money. And that is, sellers, don't throw away that paperwork.
Right. And another thing that I think is also important, Bill, is know what the payoff amount is.
Bingo.
The reason that that's important is because when you sell something, paying off the solar panels at closing is beneficial. And you probably want to let your realtor know that, because it may increase the value of your property, knowing that all you have left is to pay off $11,000. And then it can go into the negotiations, where if you have a good realtor, a good lender, you have a good attorney, it can go into negotiations. Sometimes we have to be creative, but there's certain limits.
Yeah. So another call to action. This one, Sean, is for our other business partner, team member on our team, because real estate is a team sport. Real estate brokers, make sure the seller who you're going to commit to helping them move through their journey to their next chapter selling real estate property with solar panels, really bang on their door and say, hey, where's your paperwork for the solar stuff?
Absolutely. And not only that, but if they are technology challenged, you need to find somebody in advance that can help them, because sometimes they may have to call the solar panel company and get these things emailed to them or their loved one or the realtor.
Bingo. And if I may rewind in time, this is my general advice. Whenever you're signing documents, Sean, hopefully you'll love this one. Whenever you're signing documents, even if it is a retainer to retain an attorney, oh, come on, don't do this, which is, oh, I signed it. Let me shove that piece of paper somewhere. I'm never going to look for it. Take a damn picture of it with your iPhone.
Absolutely. Or your Android, right.
All right, cool beans. Let's now go a little bit deeper in our conversation. So when someone is selling real estate property with solar panels, you got to have that paperwork. That's what we heard. Second, try to get a payoff, right?
Correct.
If you own the panels and you're financing or whatever, but what if you only lease it? Then what do you do then?
Generally, you call the solar panel company and you just ask them questions. How do I obtain a copy of my lease agreement? You
Bingo.
want the terms, because if I'm going to represent a buyer as an attorney, I'm going to ask you about what are the terms. I'm going to want a copy of that. And now, if you don't get it to the buyers within 3 business days after the initial acceptance, the buyer has the ability to cancel on you, and you may not like a canceled contract because you gave the buyer an excuse to get out of the contract.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's the good old cliche that we've heard. You know, the deal's not done until it closes.
Correct.
It's not done until, you know, what is the fat lady sings or whatever, you know, funny little cliche like that. So yes, it's a moving process, sellers and buyers. Sean and I know this. We probably joke about it with each other, with our other business partners, which is, hey, this is a journey, one step at a time. We can't always rush it. We can't skip steps, but it's a process, right?
Absolutely. Let me give you an example. I had a buyer of mine that is buying a property that called yesterday that they're going through a divorce and they want to cancel a contract. So to the sellers, don't give the buyers out by not getting the contract stuff. And this is a lesson to the realtors too, because everybody does a lot of work.
Right.
And you don't want to be a day or two before closing and your buyer cancels on you. And then your seller's going to be mad because they just lost time on the market. They probably had to pay real estate taxes, maybe another mortgage. So these details are important.
Yeah, they are important. All right. Love that. Love that. Let's now shift our conversation to what's happening for you right now, which is what should the other side really need to know and plan for, right? So for your current client, your real life client that's buying real estate property with solar panels on it, how should they prepare, Sean?
So one thing that they're going to do is they're going to have an inspection of the solar panels.
Yeah.
Number 2 is, as the buyer's attorney, we're going to want to know whether there's been any damage in the past to the solar panels.
Okay.
And so one part of the real estate contract in Illinois is disclosure.
Okay.
The reason you want to know that as a buyer is, are you buying into a problem that you don't know about?
I like that. Yeah.
And the seller's not going to tell you unless we ask.
Okay. I like that too.
Right.
That's called human nature. I'm not going to tell you until you ask the question.
Exactly.
Now, who is the third party professional that's going to do that due diligence on the solar panels? Is it your typical home inspector or is it someone else?
You know what? I'm not for sure, Bill. This is the first time that I've encountered. Normally, I mostly work for sellers.
Okay.
So this is the first time on the buy side.
Okay.
So I'm not for sure. My buyer is looking into it. So is the realtor. So I'm not for sure. That's a good question.
All right. Well, hey, social friends, I don't know whether Sean did this intentional or not, but Sean, guess what? The fact that we don't know yet, that is cliffhanger for maybe part B, another episode that I'll bring you back in. How's that?
Oh, hey, it sounds good.
All right. So we talked about how when where, and what you must do. Sellers, buyers, real estate brokers, when the real estate property has solar panels on it, yes, it makes it a little bit more interesting. Yes, it can make it a little bit more complicated. And yes, you need to do a little bit more work along the process. So for those of you who are selling or buying real estate property with solar panels, and just like Sean, unless you're paying cash, at some point you'll need to talk to someone like myself. By the way, I didn't share this with you at the top of the live stream. My name is Bill. I'm a local mortgage broker who Sean Robertson knows. So when you are buying real estate property with solar panels on it, and maybe the solar panels are being leased, is there a solution that I can provide to you so that you can own your solar panels? Or let me add another flavor to this. What if you want to buy real estate property and you have the intention of dropping solar panels onto the actual real estate property? I provide a solution to help you along the way as well. What is the solution? Let me share it with you. This is a financing solution that we provide coupled to the mortgage, a real estate mortgage financing your purchase, so that you can purchase solar panels, spread the payments over time, and along the way, by the way, here's a little whisper, along the way, we leverage incentives from our solar partner. Those incentives become down payment or closing cost assistance. So as Sean and I wrap up this episode of Solar Power Living, first and foremost, Sean, thank you for sharing your time with me, my audience, your audience, our audience today. And by the way, you heard it from Sean, everyone. He's got more that he can share with us with his real life buyer of real estate property with solar panels. So we will absolutely, I may have to beg again, we will absolutely bring him back as a recurring guest for another episode. So in the meantime, thank you everyone for joining us today in this episode of Solar Power Living. And as I ask my music posse to play us out, in the event you need to start a conversation with me, there's more information you want from me, or you want to connect with Sean Robertson because you're too damn lazy to do something called the Google search, all you need to do is scan the QR code that you see here. I'll gladly help you with all of that stuff. Music posse, please play us out. Sean, have a great hot summer day.